Good morning, afternoon, everyone. I want to talk today about something that we all struggle with: time. We live in a world where it feels like time is slipping through our fingers, and the more we chase after it, the more we feel like we're losing control. We hear it all the time: time is precious, or you can't get time back, and while that may sound cliche, there's a deep truth that we often overlook. We've been taught, whether directly or indirectly, that vulnerability is a weakness, something to hide, control, or avoid at all costs. We hear phrases like, "Don't let them see you sweat," or "Never show your cards." Society often rewards strength, confidence, and resilience, but it rarely talks about the fact that vulnerability is the foundation of all three. But what if we flip the narrative? What if we saw vulnerability not as a liability, but as a superpower? Because here's the truth: vulnerability is not weakness. It's not about oversharing or exposing every aspect of your life. It's about being authentic. It's about showing up as you are, with your imperfections, doubts, and fears, and still choosing to move forward. 1. Vulnerability is the path to connection. Think about the moments in your life when you felt the most connected to someone: a deep conversation with a friend, a shared moment of grief, or even a celebration of success. Those moments of connection didn't come from perfection or pretending everything was fine. They came from honesty, from letting your guard down, from saying, "This is me, this is my joy, my pain, my truth." When we're vulnerable, we give others permission to be vulnerable too. We create a space where authenticity thrives, and in that space, real connection happens. Relationships, whether personal or professional, deepen when we show up fully, without the masks we think we need to wear. 2. Vulnerability unlocks growth. Growth requires us to step into the unknown. And let's be honest, the unknown is scary. It's uncomfortable. It's filled with the possibility of failure, rejection, and criticism. But it's also where we grow. Vulnerability is what allows us to take that first step, even when we don't have all the answers. When you apply for a job you're not 100% qualified for, that's vulnerability. When you start a conversation with someone you admire, knowing they might not respond the way you hope, that's vulnerability. When you pursue a dream or a passion, even when the odds aren't in your favor, that's vulnerability. Every act of courage begins with a willingness to be vulnerable. And yes, you might fail. You might fall short. But every failure is a lesson. And every lesson is a step toward growth. Without vulnerability, we stay in our comfort zones where it's safe but stagnant. With vulnerability, we grow, evolve, and become the person we're meant to be. 3. Vulnerability builds resilience. It might seem counterintuitive, but vulnerability is the key to resilience. Why? Because resilience isn't about never falling, it's about getting back up. And you can't get back up if you're not willing to admit that you've fallen. When we acknowledge our struggles and allow ourselves to feel the pain, disappointment, or frustration, we process those emotions instead of suppressing them. And in processing them, we build the strength to move forward. Resilience isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about saying, "This is hard, but I can handle it." Vulnerability gives us the courage to acknowledge the hard parts of life and the strength to keep going. 4. Vulnerability in leadership. In leadership, vulnerability is often seen as a risk. Leaders are expected to have all the answers, to be confident and in control. But the best leaders, the ones who inspire, motivate, and create lasting change, are those who lead with vulnerability. When a leader says, "I don't have all the answers, but I'm committed to figuring it out with you," they build trust. When they admit to a mistake and take responsibility, they set a powerful example for their team. Vulnerability in leadership fosters an environment where creativity, innovation, and collaboration can thrive. Because when people feel safe to be themselves, they bring their best ideas and their full potential to the table. 5. Vulnerability and self-compassion. Finally, vulnerability isn't just about how we show up for others, it's about how we show up for ourselves. One of the hardest things to do is to be vulnerable with yourself, to look in the mirror and acknowledge the parts of you that feel unworthy, scared, or insecure. But self-compassion begins with vulnerability. It starts with saying, I'm struggling, and that's okay. It's about giving yourself permission to be imperfect, to make mistakes, and to learn from them without self-judgment. When we're kind to ourselves in moments of vulnerability, we build a foundation of self-acceptance and self-love. Closing thoughts. Embracing vulnerability is not a one-time decision, it's a daily practice. It's choosing, moment by moment, to show up fully, even when it feels uncomfortable or uncertain. It's recognizing that the things we often fear, failure, rejection, judgment, are not as powerful as the strength that comes from living authentically. So let's stop wasting time hiding behind walls of perfection and fear. Let's embrace vulnerability as the key to connection, growth, resilience, leadership, and self-compassion. Because when we show up with courage and authenticity, we don't just stop wasting time, we start living a life that truly matters. Discomfort is something we're all familiar with. It's that tight feeling in your chest before a difficult conversation, the hesitation before trying something new, or the anxiety of stepping into the unknown. Our natural instinct is to avoid it. After all, discomfort is uncomfortable for a reason. It triggers a flight response, convincing us that retreating to safety is the best option. But what if I told you that discomfort isn't something to run from? What if I told you it's a signal, a sign that you're on the edge of growth, on the cusp of something new and transformative? We live in a culture that prioritizes comfort. We have comfortable homes, comfortable jobs, comfortable routines, and even comfortable excuses for why we stay where we are. But comfort, as nice as it feels, can also be a trap. It can keep us stagnant, stuck in a place where we aren't challenged, where we aren't learning, and where we aren't becoming the best version of ourselves. If we want to stop wasting time, we need to get comfortable with discomfort. We need to shift our mindset and see discomfort not as a threat, but as an opportunity, a doorway to growth, resilience, and achievement. 1. Discomfort is a sign of growth. Think about any major milestone or accomplishment in your life. Maybe it was finishing a degree, landing a job, starting a business, or navigating a personal challenge. None of those moments happen without some level of discomfort. Growth is inherently uncomfortable because it requires us to step out of what we know and into what we don't. When you're learning a new skill, the beginning is often awkward and frustrating. You make mistakes, you feel unsure, and you question whether you're cut out for it. But every time you push through that discomfort, you improve. You get better, stronger, more confident. Eventually, what once felt difficult becomes second nature. Discomfort is a signal that you're expanding your capacity, stretching beyond your current limits. The more you embrace it, the more you grow. 2. Discomfort builds resilience. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from setbacks, adapt to change, and keep going in the face of adversity. But resilience isn't built in times of ease, it's forged in moments of challenge and discomfort. Every time you face discomfort head on, you build a little more resilience. You prove to yourself that you can handle uncertainty, that you can navigate failure, and that you can survive disappointment. Over time, you develop a mental toughness that allows you to approach future challenges with greater confidence and composure. Getting comfortable with discomfort doesn't mean you'll stop feeling it. It means you'll stop being paralyzed by it. You'll learn to move forward despite the discomfort, knowing that it's temporary and that you have the strength to endure it. 3. Discomfort fuels innovation and creativity. Innovation and creativity thrive in discomfort. When we're too comfortable, we tend to stick with what we know, following familiar patterns and routines. But true innovation happens when we're willing to step into uncertainty, to take risks, and to explore new ideas, even when we don't know how they'll turn out. Think about the greatest inventions, the most successful businesses, or the most impactful works of art. They were born from discomfort. They came from people who were willing to challenge the status quo, to face criticism, and to navigate the discomfort of the unknown. If we want to create something new, whether it's a project, a business, or a new way of living, we have to be willing to sit with the discomfort of uncertainty and trust that it will lead us to something greater. 4. Discomfort strengthens relationships. Discomfort also plays a critical role in our relationships. Honest, meaningful connections aren't built on small talk and surface level conversations. They're built on vulnerability, difficult conversations, and the willingness to face discomfort together. Think about the last time you had a hard conversation with someone you care about. Maybe it was addressing a conflict, setting a boundary, or expressing a need. Those conversations are uncomfortable, but they're also necessary. They're what allow relationships to grow, to deepen, and to become more authentic. When we avoid discomfort in our relationships, we avoid the opportunity for true connection. But when we face it with courage and empathy, we build relationships that are stronger, more resilient, and more fulfilling. 5. Discomfort leads to confidence. Confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build through experience. And experience often comes with discomfort. Every time you face a challenge, step into uncertainty, or take a risk, you're building confidence. At first, discomfort feels overwhelming. It's that voice in your head saying, what if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if this doesn't work out? But when you push through it, you prove to yourself that you're capable. With each uncomfortable experience, you gather evidence of your resilience, your adaptability, and your strength. And that evidence becomes the foundation of your confidence. The more you face discomfort, the more confident you become in your ability to handle whatever life throws your way. How to get comfortable with discomfort. Change your mindset. Start seeing discomfort as a necessary part of growth rather than something to avoid. Remind yourself that every uncomfortable moment is an opportunity to learn, grow, and become stronger. Start small. You don't have to dive into the deep end right away. Start by facing small discomforts like having a difficult conversation or trying something new. Over time, you'll build the resilience to face bigger challenges. Lean into it. When discomfort arises, don't run from it. Sit with it. Acknowledge it. Ask yourself, what is this discomfort teaching me? What am I learning from this experience? Take action despite fear. Fear often accompanies discomfort, but fear doesn't have to stop you. Take action anyway. The more you act despite fear, the less power it holds over you. Reflect and celebrate. After facing a moment of discomfort, take time to reflect on what you learned and celebrate your courage. Every time you step into discomfort, you're becoming stronger and more capable. Closing thoughts. Discomfort is not the enemy. It's a powerful teacher, a gateway to growth, and a necessary part of living a full, meaningful life. The more we get comfortable with discomfort, the more we stop wasting time avoiding challenges and start embracing the opportunities that come with them. So, the next time you feel that familiar tension of discomfort, don't run from it. Lean in. Embrace it. Trust that on the other side of discomfort is the person you're meant to become. In a world that constantly demands our attention, it's easy to get caught up in the noise. We juggle endless to-do lists, respond to countless emails, scroll through social media, and say yes to commitments we don't truly care about. And at the end of the day, we often find ourselves exhausted, wondering where the time went and why we still feel unfulfilled. The truth is, many of us are busy, but we're not necessarily productive. We fill our days with tasks, but we're not always focused on the things that truly matter. We're moving fast, but we're not moving forward. If we want to stop wasting time, we need to make a fundamental shift. We need to stop prioritizing what's urgent and start prioritizing what's important. It's about aligning our time with our values, our goals, and the things that bring meaning to our lives. 1. The cost of busyness. Busyness has become a badge of honor in today's society. We equate being busy with being important, successful, or valuable. But busyness by itself isn't a measure of success. It's often a distraction from what really matters. Think about it. How often do you say, I don't have time for things that are important to you? Whether it's spending quality time with loved ones, pursuing a passion, or even taking care of your physical and mental health. These are often the first things we sacrifice when life gets busy. But here's the reality. If we don't prioritize what truly matters, we'll always feel like something is missing. we'll continue to chase a sense of fulfillment that can't be found in endless tasks and superficial achievements. 2. Clarifying your priorities. To prioritize what truly matters, you first need to understand what matters to you. This requires reflection and honesty. Ask yourself, what are my core values? What brings me joy, fulfillment, and a sense of purpose? What goals do I want to achieve in my personal and professional life? Who are the people that matter most to me? How do I want to spend my limited time on this earth? When you take the time to answer these questions, you begin to see where your time and energy should be going. You start to differentiate between what's truly important and what's simply urgent or trivial. 3. The power of saying no. One of the biggest obstacles to prioritizing what matters is our inability to say no. We fear disappointing others, missing out on opportunities, or being perceived as selfish. But every time we say yes to something that doesn't align with our priorities, we're saying no to something that does. Saying no is not about being selfish, it's about being intentional. It's about recognizing that your time and energy are finite resources, and you have the right to protect them. Here's a simple framework for deciding when to say no. Does this align with my values and goals? Will this bring me closer to the life I want to live? Am I saying yes out of obligation or fear of judgment? If the answer to these questions is no, then give yourself permission to decline. Saying no to the wrong things creates space for the right things. 4. Focus on the 80/20 rule. The 80/20 rule, also known as the Pareto principle, states that 80% of our results come from 20% of our efforts. This principle applies to almost every area of life, from work to relationships to personal growth. If we apply the 80/20 rule to how we spend our time, it means that a small percentage of our activities are responsible for the majority of our fulfillment and success. The key is to identify those high-impact activities and focus on them. For example, in your career, what tasks or projects have the most significant impact on your success? Focus your energy there. In your relationships, who are the people who truly matter? Invest your time in nurturing those connections. In your personal life, what activities bring you the most joy and fulfillment? Make them a priority. By focusing on the 20% that truly matters, you can achieve more with less effort and avoid wasting time on things that don't move the needle. 5. Create boundaries to protect your priorities. Even when you've identified your priorities, it can be challenging to protect them. Life will continue to throw distractions, demands, and unexpected challenges your way. That's why boundaries are essential. Boundaries are the limits you set to protect your time, energy, and focus. They help you stay aligned with your priorities and prevent you from being pulled in too many directions. Here are some examples of boundaries you can set. Time boundaries set specific times for work, family, self-care, and rest. Stick to those boundaries as much as possible. Digital boundaries limit the time you spend on social media, emails, and other digital distractions. Create tech-free zones or hours in your day. Emotional boundaries protect your mental and emotional well-being by saying no to toxic relationships, unnecessary drama, and situations that drain you. Boundaries are not about shutting people out. They're about creating space for what truly matters. They're about ensuring that your time is spent intentionally, not reactively. 6. Prioritizing self-care. One of the most overlooked priorities in our lives is self-care. We often think of self-care as a luxury or something we'll get to when we have time, but self-care is a necessity. It's the foundation that allows us to show up fully for the people and things that matter most. Self-care looks different for everyone, but it might include getting enough sleep to recharge your body and mind, taking time to exercise and nourish your body with healthy food, practicing mindfulness or meditation to stay present and grounded, pursuing hobbies or activities that bring you joy and relaxation. When you prioritize self-care, you're not being selfish, you're ensuring that you have the energy, focus, and well-being to show up for the things that matter. 7. Living a life of intention. Ultimately, prioritizing what truly matters is about living with intention. It's about making conscious choices about how you spend your time, rather than letting life happen to you. Living with intention means being clear about your values and goals, aligning your daily actions with those values and goals, saying no to distractions and obligations that don't serve you, regularly reflecting on your progress and adjusting your priorities as needed. When you live with intention, you stop wasting time on things that don't matter. You create a life that is aligned with your purpose, filled with meaningful connections, and driven by a sense of fulfillment. Closing thoughts. Time is the most precious resource we have. Once perfectionism is often seen as a positive trait. Society tells us that aiming for perfection is a sign of high standards, ambition, and a commitment to excellence. We associate it with success, competence, and control. But what if I told you that perfectionism is not the path to success? It's actually one of the biggest obstacles. Perfectionism doesn't lead to achievement. It leads to procrastination, burnout, self-doubt, and ultimately paralysis. It keeps us stuck in a cycle of unrealistic expectations, constant self-criticism, and fear of failure. Instead of moving forward, we remain trapped in a never-ending loop of not good enough. If we want to stop wasting time, we need to let go of perfectionism and replace it with a healthier mindset, one that values progress, growth, and authenticity over the illusion of perfection. 1. The illusion of perfection. Let's start with an uncomfortable truth: perfection doesn't exist. It's an illusion, a moving target that keeps shifting no matter how much effort you put in. You can spend endless hours refining a project, tweaking every detail, and still feel like it's not quite perfect. Why? Because perfection is subjective. What looks perfect to one person might seem flawed to another. There will always be someone who has a different opinion, a different standard, or a different expectation. Chasing perfection is like chasing a mirage. You can see it, but you'll never actually reach it. And while you're chasing it, life is passing you by. Opportunities slip away, deadlines are missed, and the joy of creating, learning, and growing is overshadowed by the relentless pursuit of something unattainable. 2. Perfectionism leads to procrastination. One of the most common side effects of perfectionism is procrastination. When we set unrealistically high standards for ourselves, the fear of not meeting those standards can be paralyzing. We delay starting a task because we're afraid we won't do it perfectly. We think, I'll start when I have more time, more information, more skill, but that time never comes and the task remains undone. Or we start and then endlessly revise, polish, and second guess ourselves, never actually finishing. Procrastination, fueled by perfectionism, keeps us stuck in a cycle of inaction, and inaction is the ultimate waste of time. To break free, we need to shift our focus from perfect to done. Progress is better than perfection. Finishing something imperfectly is more valuable than never finishing it at all. 3. Perfectionism stifles creativity and innovation. Creativity thrives in imperfection. Some of the most groundbreaking ideas, inventions, and works of art were born from mistakes, failures, and experimentation. But perfectionism stifles creativity by creating a fear of failure and a need for control. When we're obsessed with getting everything right, we're less likely to take risks, try new things, or think outside the box. We stick to what's safe, predictable, and familiar. But innovation doesn't come from playing it safe. It comes from exploring the unknown, embracing uncertainty, and being willing to fail. Letting go of perfectionism means giving yourself permission to experiment, to make mistakes, and to learn from them. It means valuing the creative process over the final product. 4. Perfectionism damages self-worth. At its core, perfectionism is often linked to self-worth. We believe that if we can just be perfect in our work, our appearance, our relationships will be worthy of love, respect, and success. But this belief is a trap. Perfectionism tells us that our worth is tied to our achievements, our performance, and how others perceive us. It creates a constant need for validation and approval. And when we inevitably fall short of perfection, we feel like we've failed not just in our tasks, but as individuals. But your worth is not dependent on being perfect. You are valuable because of who you are, not because of what you do or how perfectly you do it. Letting go of perfectionism means embracing self-compassion and recognizing that you are enough, just as you are. 5. The emotional toll of perfectionism. Perfectionism doesn't just affect our productivity and creativity, it takes a significant emotional toll. It leads to chronic stress. The constant pressure to be perfect creates ongoing stress and anxiety. Burnout. The relentless pursuit of perfection can lead to physical and emotional exhaustion. Low self-esteem. Perfectionism erodes self-confidence. As we focus on our flaws and failures rather than our strengths and successes. Fear of failure. Perfectionism makes us afraid to fail, which can prevent us from taking risks or pursuing our dreams. Letting go of perfectionism is not just about improving our performance, it's about protecting our mental and emotional well-being. It's about choosing peace over pressure and self-acceptance over self-criticism. So how do we let go of perfectionism? It starts with a mindset shift. Focus on progress instead of aiming for perfection. Aim for progress, celebrate small wins, incremental improvements, and lessons learned along the way. Set realistic goals. Perfectionism often stems from unrealistic expectations. Set achievable goals that challenge you but are still within reach. Practice self. Okay. In the whirlwind of daily life, it's easy to fall into autopilot. We wake up, go through the motions, complete our tasks, and end the day without giving much thought to whether our actions align with our deeper purpose. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and before we know it, years have passed, and we're left wondering, am I truly living or am I just existing? To stop wasting time and create a meaningful life, we must learn to live with intention. Living with intention means making conscious, deliberate choices about how we spend our time, energy, and attention. It's about aligning our actions with our values, goals, and purpose, rather than letting life happen to us. Living with intention doesn't mean we need to have every moment of our lives perfectly planned. It's not about rigid schedules or constant productivity. Instead, it's about living in a way that feels authentic, purposeful, and aligned with what truly matters to us. It's about waking up each day and choosing to live in a way that reflects who we are and what we want from life. 1. Define your values and purpose. Living with intention starts with understanding your core values and purpose. Your values are the principles that guide your decisions and shape your sense of what's right and meaningful. Your purpose is your reason for being the deeper why behind your actions and goals. Ask yourself, what matters most to me in life? What kind of person do I want to be? How do I want to contribute to the world? What legacy do I want to leave behind? Take time to reflect on these questions and write down your answers. This process of self-reflection helps clarify what's truly important to you. Once you know your values and purpose, you can begin to align your daily actions with them. 2. Set intentional goals. Intentional living is not about aimlessly drifting through life. It's about setting meaningful goals that reflect your values and purpose. These goals give you direction and help you prioritize how you spend your time. When setting goals, consider the following. Are these goals aligned with my values and purpose? Do these goals contribute to my personal growth and well-being? Will achieving these goals bring me closer to the life I want to live? Break your goals down into actionable steps and focus on consistent progress rather than perfection. Remember, living with intention is about moving forward in a purposeful direction, even if the steps are small. 3. Be present in the moment. One of the most powerful aspects of intentional living is the ability to be present in the moment. So much of our time is wasted because we're either dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. But the only moment we truly have is now. Living with intention means fully engaging with the present moment, whether you're working on a project, spending time with loved ones, or simply enjoying a quiet moment of reflection. Practice mindfulness to cultivate presence. Focus on one task at a time. Multitasking divides your attention and reduces the quality of your experience. Engage your senses. Notice the sights, sounds, and sensations around you. Let go of distractions. Put away your phone, turn off notifications, and give your full attention to what you're doing. When you're present, you experience life more fully and create deeper connections with the people and experiences around you. 4. Make conscious choices. Living with intention requires us to make conscious choices rather than defaulting to habits, routines, or external expectations. Time is the most precious resource we have. We can't control how much of it we're given, but we can control how we spend it. Living with intention is about reclaiming that control, about choosing to live deliberately rather than being swept away by the demands, distractions, and busyness of life. It's about aligning your actions with your values, focusing on what truly matters, and showing up fully for each moment. It's about giving yourself permission to let go of perfection, embrace progress, and be present with the people and experiences that bring meaning to your life. When you live with intention, you stop wasting time. You start living a life that feels authentic, purposeful, and fulfilling. So as you leave here today, I encourage you to pause, reflect on the choices you make, the habits you keep, and the direction you're heading. And ask yourself, am I living the life I truly want? If not, remember this, it's never too late to start. Each moment is an opportunity to begin again, to choose differently, and to live with intention. Your time is valuable. Use it wisely, live with purpose, and make each day count.